Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. In the end, it was a landslide victory. Pierre Poilievre becomes the new leader of the CPC after receiving just over 68% of support from party members. There are calls for Russian President Vladimir Putin to resign and be charged with treason. Foreign Affairs expert Lisa Daftari will have the details. And a special air quality statement from Environment Canada was issued for much of the province as the wildfire smoke continues.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Pierre Poilievre was named the new leader of the Conservative Party of Canada following his landslide win over the weekend. A resounding first ballot victory was announced in Ottawa, with a longtime member of Parliament earning over 68% of support from members. Poilievre won nearly all of the ridings across Canada. His nearest competitor, Jean Charest, finished with only 16% support. Charest announced that he will be returning to the private sector. Poilievre says as the CPC leader, he will be pushing for the elimination of the ArriveCAN app, among other things.
We must remove other unneeded barriers by axing the disastrous ArriveCAN app. And by ending the remaining COVID vaccine mandates to let people work and travel freely. Thank you. We will bring hope. We will bring hope to doctors, nurses, engineers, and others who are immigrants to this country but are blocked from working in their professions for no other reason than that they come from another country. We'll team up with provinces to guarantee that within 60 days, an immigrant applying to work in their profession will get a yes or no based on their tested abilities, not based on where they come from. Instead of spending a fortune targeting licensed and law-abiding, trained and tested firearms owners, Conservatives will bolster the laws, bolster the borders, and put the real criminals in jail.
People from around the world were leaving cards, gifts, and other personal items for the Queen at a park just outside of Buckingham Palace. Mourners say they feel a connection to Queen Elizabeth II, who died last week at the age of 96.
We've always admired the Queen, and she came onto the throne when my mum was 4.
Yeah, and I was at her first coronation, so we can remember celebrating and the vastness of it and the awesomeness that the whole world's here.
She's such a special lady as well. I mean, watching all the tributes and see, yeah, you just want to be part of it. So it's something that will probably never happen. She's been Queen for a long time. It's the only Queen I've known. So, yes, we just wanted to come down and thank her for how amazing she's been over the years.
I think Her Majesty has always been a huge presence in our life, growing up in Canada and now here in Britain.
I think we just wanted to be part of the crowds and kind of
the celebration
and see what was going on, and certainly it's been moving. There's the sheer volume of people and flowers. You can't help but be emotional.
King Charles III has been proclaimed Canada's head of state at a ceremony that included a 21-gun salute and a moment of remembrance for his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Governor General Mary Simon signed the proclamation for the accession.
We, the Right Honourable Mary May Simon, Governor General of Canada, assisted by His Majesty's Privy Council for Canada, proclaim that His Royal Highness Prince Charles Philip Arthur George is now, by the death of our late Sovereign Charles III, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom, Canada, and His other realms and territories, King, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, to whom we acknowledge faith and allegiance.
There are calls in Russia for Russian President Vladimir Putin to not only step down, but also to be charged with treason in connection with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari says some government officials are saying Putin should just cut his losses when it comes to this war.
And you have these, Russian officials trying to kind of rein Putin in, get him out of Ukraine, kind of cut his losses, offer him that off-ramp that we always talk about in terms of getting out of this situation and not going forward anymore. It raises a lot of questions about where is this fight going? Where is this war going? A lot of money, resources, and senseless deaths surrounding this invasion. And we still don't know what will be the off-ramp or how will this end.
Lisa will have the latest on the war in Ukraine coming up later in our broadcast. Well, it was a smoky start to the work week here in southwestern Alberta. A special air quality statement was issued by Environment Canada. Smoke from the BC wildfires have made their way to our region. Angela Stewart is outdoors by the high-level bridge here in Lethbridge. Angela, how long will the smoky conditions continue?
Yeah, Hal, the smoky conditions are going to continue into tomorrow. Cloudy and hazy with a high of 25 expected. We will be getting some reprieve, though, on Wednesday when the smoke should dissipate. Looking at temperatures tonight, mainly cloudy and hazy with a low of 12. As for how the rest of the week is shaping up, I'll have all those details coming up later in the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Angela. As we mentioned here on Bridge City News, Lethbridge is currently under a special air quality statement due to wildfire smoke coming in from both the U.S. and British Columbia. Environment Canada says there are westerly winds that are bringing the smoke to our region. Meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada, Sarah Hoffman, says those with underlying health issues should be paying special close attention to the Air Quality Health Index before heading outside.
For those folks, a value of 4 to 7 is already a dangerous value for them and a time where they need to take action. For a general member of the public who doesn't have those pre-existing conditions, it's at 7+, where we start to see those without any existing breathing issues start to become affected. And that can be as low as irritation to eyes and throat, or difficulty breathing. Like that can escalate quite a bit. And for those folks, it's really when you see the AQHI value 7+, but also when you can smell smoke.
Lethbridge's air quality index is currently sitting at 3 and is expected to rise to about a 7. Higher than usual temperatures and a lack of rain will continue in many parts of British Columbia, which will not help the wildfire situation. Fire officials are saying that overnight temperatures are not cooling off much either. They also say that 75% of the province's 191 wildfires were caused by lightning, with fewer people involved in starting blazes this year. The Battleship Mountain Fire north of Prince George led to the evacuation order of around 1,000 residents in the district of Hudson's Hope. Meanwhile, an evacuation alert is in place just east of Bear Hole Lake, around 30 kilometers from Tumbler Ridge, where another wildfire is currently burning. Members from Lethbridge City Administration and Lethbridge City Council took part in Fire Ops 101 earlier today and got hands-on experience as to what it takes to become a firefighter. The participants went through 3 different scenarios, including a structure fire, a car crash, and a medical emergency.
We're able to show them how, with our limited staffing levels, how well we do with our integrated service. We run firefighters and paramedics on both the ambulance and the fire side. And we run 3 personnel fire apparatus. So we're able to show the council and admin how difficult it is when we arrive on scene with less staff than the industry standard is. Current industry standard is 4 firefighters per apparatus, and we're responding with 3 every day. Makes it very difficult. Typically we could use an ambulance member as a firefighter, but with dispatch leaving and moving to Calgary, centralizing dispatch has made it ambulance unavailable to assist us at fire scenes.
Lethbridge City Councillor John Middleton Hope was one of the participants, and he says it was a cool experience being part of so many scenarios.
It's just interesting because it's a reflection. I've gone into fires without any equipment before. So when I was a police officer many years ago, I went into a number of fires and actually extricated somebody from a garage fire, and there was black smoke in there, and you end up spitting up black out of your lungs for several days after. The equipment is so critical because sometimes they're in there for a long period of time. I certainly learned a lot of that. I've always had a great deal of respect for firefighters and paramedics.
By the way, the Lethbridge Fire Department is also hiring for new recruits. More information can be found on the City of Lethbridge website. Alberta NDP health critic David Shepherd responded to the UCP's admission that their multi-million-dollar Resign program to recruit more doctors to the rural areas of the province has been less than successful. Shepherd says what may be keeping healthcare professionals away from Alberta is some of the damage which has already been done.
Fundamentally, the problem here is the deep damage that this government has done to the relationship with healthcare professionals in the province of Alberta, tearing up their contract, instituting legislation that says the contract is only binding on one side, the attacks throughout the pandemic, the utter undermining of our healthcare system. It's driven doctors out of practice, out of province, and has made it incredibly difficult to recruit. So really that is the root of this issue. So frankly, whatever changes Minister Copping introduces to the program, if he increases the level of incentives, he offers it to more communities, that is not going to undo the root problem, and that's that healthcare professionals simply do not trust any deal with this government.
Bridge City News reached out to the office of Health Minister Jason Copping to respond to Shepherd's comments, but is yet to hear back. Lethbridge NDP MLA Shanna Phillips announced over the weekend that she accepted the nomination for Lethbridge West once again. This will be the fourth time for Phillips, who was also the Environment and Climate Change Minister when the NDP was in government during the Rachel Notley era. Phillips grew up in Spruce Grove, Alberta, and holds a Bachelor of Political Science from the University of Alberta. Last November, former Lethbridge City Councillor Rob Miyashiro was nominated as the NDP candidate for Lethbridge East. He will be going up against the incumbent UCP MLA Nathan Newdorf. The next provincial election is slated for the spring of 2023. A new flag is now flying high at Lethbridge City Hall. The United Way of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta unveiled its community fundraising campaign on Monday morning. Staff from the United Way are saying this fundraiser will help families who are dealing with inflation. They say a number of people in our community are having to choose between putting food on the table or paying rent. Video journalist Micah Quinn has the details.
The raising of the flag signifies the kickoff of the 2022 Community Fundraising Campaign. The goal for this year's fundraiser is to raise $280,000. The executive director of the United Way of Lethbridge and southwestern Alberta, Jackie Zalisak, says inflation has impacted Lethbridge families in a huge way, and the funds raised will help combat this issue here in our city.
The struggles are out there, the cost of rising food, the cost of transportation, all of those types of things are being impacted. And when you're thinking about recreation programs for your kids, or what food item that you're going to choose at the grocery store.
Stats from Alberta Living Wage indicate the living wage in Lethbridge was $19 an hour in 2021. The money that is generated helps support 10 partner agencies here in Lethbridge.
We have given various programs to baby bundles programs at the food bank. We've supported Women's Space Resource Center, and that helps replace women who have the need for their ID to be replaced.
Acting Mayor of Lethbridge, Belinda Croson, says the United Way was formed after the Great Depression and during the Second World War in 1941.
Kind of incredible need, and we're seeing that again. And so I strongly encourage the public to look at the United Way, to consider volunteering, to consider donating, and because the need is there. When 20% of the children in Lethbridge are living in poverty, we need to do something as community members, but as individuals as well.
According to Zalisak, the rate of low income in our city is sitting at 12% right now. The Lethbridge United Way flag will be up at City Hall for 1 week. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
The Walk Together for ALS event took place in Lethbridge over the weekend. A number of participants put their best foot forward in support of a fundraiser down at Henderson Lake. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, is a rapid and fatal neurodegenerative disease. It attacks the nerves of the body that would normally send messages from the brain to the muscle, resulting in weakness and wasting. Staff from the ALS Society of Alberta says the $20,000 that was raised will go toward important services and support for ALS patients and their families.
And all the funds raised will help to support people in Alberta with equipment, with kind of client services support, and then we have a children's program as well. And in addition to that, we support research. So there's amazing research that's happening within Alberta and across Canada, and we do support research with the funds raised, part of the funds raised from the walk.
This was also the first time since 2019 that the event was able to be held in person. Tennille Towns of Grande Prairie, Alberta was the big winner at the CCMA Awards in Calgary over the weekend. Towns won 5 awards in total, including Female Artist of the Year and Album of the Year.
I can't even believe what just happened. It's so wonderful, and the fact that it's at home in Alberta is such a dream. I felt it from the moment our plane touched down. It's like, I love getting to be home and to kind of put a frame around these special moments to share them with everybody that's a part of the Alberta community is it's pretty cool. The music to me is always the thing that holds the light up in the room to me, and I mean, it's an honor to be acknowledged in any way, but to know that those songs, especially with the season of that record coming from writing that music in the middle of the pandemic, feeling so lost and isolated, and the entire world was just going through so much, and to be able to find healing in music in that time to me was such a light.
RCMP say 3 people are facing charges following shootings last week in Saskatchewan that prompted an emergency alert. Mounties say shots were fired at a home in Lloydminster and a home in the rural municipality of Britannia last Tuesday. 2 adults and a 15-year-old boy were charged with various offenses. Now here's a follow-up to a story we brought you earlier this month about a rally which took place outside of a Winnipeg RCMP detachment by a group calling itself Citizens for Truth. They wanted the RCMP to investigate what they allege are criminal activities that took place during the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the main organizers, Ken Drysdale, says he created a report on the subject and sent it to every municipal police service in Manitoba. Bridge City News reached out to the Winnipeg RCMP regarding the alleged report, which was apparently submitted. In an email to BCN, Tara Seal, who's with the Manitoba RCMP, confirmed that the documents were provided by the group on September the 3rd. She also said, quote, "The Manitoba RCMP conducts all investigations without bias and as such does not support any particular perspective or belief. We will not be in a position to provide an interview on the documents provided to us," end quote. Manitoba's tourism industry is showing signs of recovery from the depths of the COVID-19 pandemic. The provincial crown corporation, Travel Manitoba, says it is now expecting a return to pre-pandemic visitor spending levels by 2023. That is 1 year earlier than previously forecast. The corporation says there are still challenges, however, which include job vacancies in the tourism sector and airline routes that were cut back during the pandemic. Environment Canada issued a special air quality statement in our region due to the wildfire smoke, and the statement stretches from Jasper National Park all the way to Medicine Hat. How long will the smoky conditions continue? We'll have the answer for you right after the break. Lots of haze in southwestern Alberta once again due to the wildfire smoke making its way to our region. Angela Stewart is out at the high-level bridge here in Lethbridge, the largest railway structure in Canada. Angela, when will the skies begin to clear up from all of that smoke?
Well, Hal, the smoke should be dissipating sometime on Wednesday, but then the clouds are also set to roll in as a low-pressure system will be setting into Lethbridge. Tonight, however, will be mainly smoky and cloudy with a low of near 12 degrees. For Tuesday, pretty warm conditions, 25 degrees, but do expect hazy, cloudy conditions. The same deal for Wednesday, a high of 21 degrees. Along with those cloudy conditions, we should expect a break from the haze on Thursday. A high of 25 is expected with lots and lots of sunshine. Friday, though, a chance of rain is in the forecast, about a 40% chance with a high of 19. Saturday, 21 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud, and 22 for the high on Sunday with a mix of sun and cloud. Checking the almanac now, the average high for this time of year, double-digit temperatures, 20 degrees. The average low, 5 degrees. The record high was 32 degrees set back in 1953, and the record low was -5 set back in 1949. The sun rose at 7:03 and set at 7:52, giving us just over 12 hours of daylight. Looking to temperatures across the country now, Victoria mainly sunny and a high of 18 degrees. Fog patches near the water in the morning. Also do expect a light wind near the Juan de Fuca Strait in the late afternoon. Vancouver 21 for the high, mainly sunny and hazy conditions in the morning. Hazy and cloudy conditions for Calgary, 23 for the high there. Although beautiful conditions in Edmonton for Tuesday, sunny and a high of 25 degrees. A mix of sun and cloud and 30-kilometer winds gusting to 50 kilometers in Regina, with the high sitting at 19 degrees, 20 degrees and similar winds for Saskatoon. A high of 18 degrees and sunny for Winnipeg. To the central part of the country now, Toronto, a chance of rain and a risk of a thunderstorm in the afternoon, 22 degrees for the high there. Rain with a risk of a thunderstorm, about 15 to 25 millimeters of rain in Ottawa. only 20 degrees for the high. Same picture in Montreal, a few showers and a risk of a thunderstorm in the late afternoon, and 24 for the high. Fredericton, a mix of sun and cloud, and 27. Halifax, mainly sunny, and 27 with some fog patches in the morning. Charlottetown, sunny and 26 degrees. St. John's and a few showers and a high of 15 degrees for Tuesday. And Hal, that's a look at the forecast from the high-level bridge here in Lethbridge.
The second quarter saw more Canadian households add to their overall debt. Stats Canada says the amount Canadians owe relative to their income moved higher. Debt levels rose much faster than earnings. There was about $1.82 in credit market debt for every dollar of household disposable income in the second quarter. StatsCan says on a seasonally adjusted basis, households added $56.3 billion of debt in the second quarter, including $48.7 billion in mortgages. A new deal was struck in the oil patch on Monday. Calgary-based Tamarack Valley Energy is buying Clearwater oil producer Delta Stream Energy for $1.425 billion. Tamarack says the acquisition will add around 23,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day of production in 2023. Under the agreement, Tamarack will pay $825 million in cash, $300 million in the form of a deferred acquisition payment, and $300 million in equity, comprising of about 80 million Tamarack shares. Skip the Dishes announced that it is laying off around 350 employees in Winnipeg. A company spokesperson says it is mostly remote contact center workers that support multiple markets globally. The affected employees were notified late last week. Founded in the year 2012, Skip the Dishes was acquired in 2016 by London-based online food delivery company Just Eat, which merged with Amsterdam-based Takeaway.com in 2020. The online food delivery market received a lift during the pandemic, with many people staying home and restaurants forced to close their indoor dining. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 213 points on the day to finish at 19,987. The Dow was up 229 points on the day to finish at 32,381. The S&P 500 was up 43 on the day to 4110. And the Nasdaq was up 154 to 12,266. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 99 cents to 87.78 U.S. per barrel. Natural gas was up 25 cents to 8.25 U.S. Gold was up 11 cents on the day to 17.2466 U.S. an ounce, and silver was even at 19.80 U.S. an ounce. Feed wheat is at $11.02 per bushel, barley's at $8.49, canola's at $17.40, and corn is at $11.74 per bushel. Live cattle were up 8 cents to $145.75. Feeder cattle were down $2.45 to $183.13, and lean hogs were down $1.30 to $91.88. The Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours at 77 cents U.S. Recapping one of our top stories, Pierre Poilievre was named the new leader of the Conservative Party of Canada following his landslide win over the weekend. A resounding first ballot victory was announced in Ottawa, with a longtime member of Parliament earning over 68% support from members. Poilievre won nearly all of the ridings across Canada. His nearest competitor, Jean Charest, finished with only 16% support and said he was returning to the private sector. The calls to have Vladimir Putin removed as Russian president are growing louder and louder as Russia's war in Ukraine continues. Some are even saying that Putin should be charged with treason. Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari will have details momentarily. Listen, if you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. We'd love to hear from you.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Are you going through divorce or separation? Find support and encouragement at Divorce Care beginning September 13th at 7 p.m. at City Light Church. Divorce Care is a weekly meeting held every Tuesday, and it's a place where you'll find a warm, caring environment during a difficult season of your life. For more information, visit divorcecare.org or call the City Light Church office at 403-329-3011. Big Brothers Big Sisters in Lethbridge is looking for volunteers to mentor children and youth in their various programs. Volunteers commit to one visit per week for 1 year. They have many kids that are looking for a big brother or sister. Make a difference in a child's life and start something big. To apply, visit lethbridge.bigbrothersbigsisters.ca, and for more information, call 403-328-9355. And that's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar.
A number of Russian officials are allegedly urging Russian President Vladimir Putin to get out of town, get out of Kremlin, as Moscow suffered another series of defeats in Ukraine recently. To talk about this in more detail is our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari, joining us once again from Los Angeles. Lisa, the voices are getting louder and louder from those in Russia saying Putin should step down and be charged with treason.
Yeah, so this is a very different narrative than what we're hearing from Putin himself, obviously flexing his muscles, saying that everything is going just dandy in his invasion of Ukraine. But yeah, we're hearing that, the big guys back at home want him to get out. And obviously, look, there's a lot of skepticism around the invasion of Ukraine. First, that it shouldn't have happened, but secondly, why is it taking so long when you have Russia or Russian might in comparison to what Ukraine has and their capabilities, and this should have been taken care of in a very short period of time. But the fact that it has carried on for over 200 days at this point, it raises a lot of questions. And then when you have these Russian officials trying to kind of rein Putin in, get him out of Ukraine, kind of cut his losses, offer him that off ramp that we always talk about in terms of getting out of this situation and not going forward anymore. It raises a lot of questions about where is this fight going? Where is this war going? A lot of money, resources, and senseless deaths surrounding this invasion. And we still don't know what will be the off-ramp or how will this end. But yeah, in the meantime, a lot of speculation about Russia really not doing so well. We've heard about Russia having many daily casualties on their side. We've heard about them having to buy weapons from the Iran regime, from now North Korea and China. That really raises a lot of questions as to what's going on, what's the status of their military might, and what is their plan going forward.
And meanwhile, Russian nationalists are demanding Vladimir Putin make some serious changes to ensure ultimate victory in the war with Ukraine. Now, that comes a day after Moscow suffered another huge defeat in Kharkiv.
Yes, and again, the South and East, they are facing some bit of a challenge from Ukraine forces, which is again interesting because we don't really have, updates that really tell us how this is going. There's no scoreboard. There's no official saying this is, what percentage of Ukraine is taken over. How is Russia doing? But when you do again have these updates where Ukraine has been able to stay in the game, that Russia has not been able to fully make this a victory or claim victory, then of course you have officials, in Russia saying, if you haven't been able to do it, then get out, because this is a very bad PR loss. If it's not a victory, it's a loss at this point because of the fact that Russia should have won this so quickly. So again, they are tiptoeing around nuclear sites. We've heard stories about that potentially happening, the IAEA having to go in there to check it out. That is, of course, the UN's nuclear watchdog group. Again, a lot of more harm that could potentially happen at this point, and the whole world is standing by hoping that Putin changes his mind and is able to cut his losses at this point.
Speaking of all things nuclear, Israel is calling for a new Iran nuclear agreement. Senior Israeli officials are pushing to halt Iran's development of nuclear weapons.
Right. This is a very long saga of how the U.S. and the West hope to get back into an Iran nuclear deal a la 2015 Obama-era foreign policy and has not been able to. So the latest that we've been covering at the Foreign Desk is that the deal is on hold. That is because the Iran regime is making demands that are both inside and outside of the deal and are just too crazy for the U.S. to accept and the West to accept. European nations are calling on the Iran regime to curb their demands. The U.S. saying this is not going to happen, which is, again, it's pretty outlandish because of the fact that we know that the United States and the Biden administration wants this deal so badly, and yet they cannot say yes to these demands that include not having to have the surveillance level of 2015, not having to go back into their nuclear files and not having to check what was done in the past. These are all really big red flags. If you're telling us that you're not going to have a weapon, you're not going to pursue a weapon, then you have to be open about that, and we have to see, what was done so far. So Israel has Mossad officials have traveled to Washington in past weeks to warn the Biden administration of the lies the Iran regime is telling. They are showing and documenting how far the Iran regime has gone in developing a nuclear weapon, how close they are to delivering a nuclear weapon, and this is again all based on Israeli intelligence and the fact that they think that this current deal will put Iran too close to, in fact, having a deal. So Israeli officials are saying, let's back up. Let's do something that actually will prevent the Iran regime from getting a deal, not giving them the sunset clauses to put them on the 1 yard line to then, be able to have a breakout period of just a few months, which is what the current deal would give them.
U.S. military prosecutors are reportedly negotiating potential plea deals with the 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 4 other conspirators who are in prison in Guantanamo Bay, Lisa. The plea deals may allow some to escape the death penalty.
Yeah, this is a very it's a devastating story for many American families who lost their loved ones in 9/11. We just had the commemoration of 21 years after September 11th attacks. Families who have been torn apart and really are still mourning their loved ones who were senselessly killed in this terrorist attack. And when you have the American standpoint of never negotiating with terrorists, then a plea deal should not come into play when it comes to these terrorists, the masterminds of the 9/11 attacks, which was undoubtedly the biggest terror attack on U.S. soil. And this again, I want to juxtapose this with another update is about the Al Qaeda cells growing in Afghanistan. Only 1 year after the U.S. withdrawal, we know that the Al Qaeda officials like Al Zawahiri, who was the second in command to Osama bin Laden, was just assassinated there by a U.S. drone attack. We know that there's more where that came from. This only highlights the fact that Afghanistan, after the withdrawal with the Taliban takeover, will and has become and will further become a safe haven for terrorist groups, including Al Qaeda and ISIS-K, who will use this as an official launching pad. So 1 year after the U.S. withdrawal, Afghanistan is in a worse position and a more precarious position considering these terror groups and the future of these terror groups. And one more thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is that Al Qaeda is a more formal and organized terror group than ISIS. ISIS was a kind of do-it-yourself terror organization. They were happy with a one-off. They were happy with a car ramming that would kill 2. Al Qaeda will go back to planning something like a 9/11 scale attack. They are after killing thousands at one time, and their sights are set on the U.S. And giving these terrorists an easy out, not giving them the death penalty, giving them a plea bargain, well, it doesn't really show that we're tough on terror. And whatever happened to the war on terror, 21 years later, and we're really moving backwards on this front.
Lisa, more news out of Afghanistan. You touched on it a little bit earlier. The Taliban has shut down girls' schools above the 6th grade in the eastern part of the country. The schools had briefly opened after recommendation by tribal elders and school principals. Why the change of heart to shut them down now?
Right. And, this happened once before. I think how we spoke on it on this program, where they announced that school would be opening. The girls showed up very excited for their first day of school, and then they were sent home because there was another change of heart. Then there was pressure in certain parts of the country to at least have these girls below college level, K through 12, at least continue their education. And again, they are changing their minds. The Taliban has a war on women, and this is not talked about in the West, of course. This is not given the proper attention that it deserves. These are young women. In the last 20 years, you had Afghan women become doctors and scientists and engineers, and now you have them not even able to leave home without a chaperone, not be able to go to school, not be able to dress the way that they want. In a matter of 365 days, they moved back a century. And to, again, not have them go to school to learn the basics. I mean, again, K through 12 education is a right. Again, when we're giving these aid checks to Afghanistan, the U.S. just doubled down on giving them more because of the earthquake they had earlier this year. That should come with some leverage to say you have to keep your schools open. Or if the UN is helping them, they should go in and make sure that their schools are open for boys and girls, that they have the basic rights and freedoms that all children should have around the world. And if we're giving them that check, again, that check has to come with certain conditions, and the minimum of which is to not crack down and to have basic human rights and to have these women be able to go to school.
A Hamas political leader landed in Moscow over the weekend, meeting with the Russian foreign minister. Lisa, what was the purpose of the meeting?
Yeah, well, the list of friends that Russia can have is shrinking by the day. So we know that they had military drills with China last week. They met with North Korea this month to buy artillery from them and rockets. And also they have bought drones from the Iran regime this summer. So now the Hamas is growing closer with Russia as well. Again, rogue nations and organizations of the world unite. It's no surprise that they would be growing closer to Hamas, trying to get some sort of collaboration going, probably some sort of cooperation in the Middle East, where Russia is interested in growing its influence and also perhaps getting some weaponry or sharing the weaponry that they're getting from the Iran regime together. This is all one big club of rogue identities and organizations growing as Russia feels more and more isolated. They are reaching out to other isolated groups on the map.
Railway service between Russia and North Korea is expected to resume next July. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, more cooperation between the two. As I said, they were purchasing rockets and artillery from North Korea. Well, then why not have an open transportation line as well to go back and forth? North Korea has been isolated from the global community for many years. And now when they find an opportunity to have some cooperation with another country on the map, well, why not? But this is nothing new for Moscow. Moscow now has been isolated from the West. So they are opening up, or I should say, tilting their influence to the Middle East and Asia. So again, it's no surprise they're reaching out to countries like North Korea and China and Iran and terror organizations, the Taliban, Hamas, and whoever else they can get a meeting with.
Lisa, inflation has impacted so many of us with food, rent, and fuel going through the roof. Now, the U.S. Army is recommending food stamps for soldiers who are truly struggling with inflation right now.
Yeah, really, there's so much going on with our military. This is really two stories in one. The inflation obviously affecting so many people, but military recruits are down in the United States. This is no secret. When you watch the portrayal of war and the military in the United States, when you look at the woke messaging that comes out of the military, it's no surprise that young boys and girls are not growing up to want to volunteer to serve their nation. They're not wanting to go to the military. And those that are going to the military are not ready or prepared for it. So their scores for entry are low, and they're almost at the failure point. So there's actually a program to tutor these individuals that we had on the foreign desk actually this morning to get them up to the standard to be in the military, and then to keep them in the military, to give them perhaps food stamps. This is an idea that's been floated around, to give them some sort of financial help and incentivize staying in the military and being able to either feed their families or feed themselves in a way that they can maintain at least the number of recruits that they have at this point.
Before we let you go, I want to talk about some of the wildfires, which are a serious issue here in Western Canada. BC wildfire smoke coming from Washington State. We have some up by Jasper and Banff. How about in Southern California where you are? How's the wildfire situation been so far this summer?
It's been awful, particularly the past couple of weeks. We have had a heat wave here that has not subsided, a lot of humidity. And this is in addition, this is we're talking about the nature made, the man-made fires are another story. We've been having a series of those set on fire by homeless encampments and tents. We had one very close to where I live, in a veteran community of homeless tents. But yes, we've also had a heat wave of temperatures between 100 and 105 Fahrenheit. You can do the math on the Celsius for me, Hal, but very hot, very humid. And hopefully this week we will get a little relief from that kind of heat.
What is that? You double it and add 32 to reach Fahrenheit from Celsius, but that's pretty hot nonetheless. Our foreign affairs expert and U.S. political reporter Lisa Daftari, thanks so much for joining us today from Los Angeles.
My pleasure.
Well, marriage can be a minefield with unexpected blow-ups. So today's guest is going to share some keys to avoid hitting those mines and how to fix things if you do. Brent Taylor is a Lethbridge marriage coach and the author of His, Hers, Greatest Need. Welcome to Bridge City News, Brent. So great to have you on again.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Okay, so you yourself have gone through divorce and some tough times. Maybe you can give us a bit of your backstory.
My backstory is I needed to be broken to be awoken. I didn't realize I was going in the wrong direction, and I didn't realize how selfish I was. And so, you know, you get teased and bullied when you're young and you're a fat little porker, and you grow up with a lot of insecurities, and that turns into some so-called addictions. And so you want to make it right. So I raised $20 million and started the largest manufacturing plant in Canada, and I was going to the moon. I went from nobody to somebody, and then I went to nobody. And so, but I needed to be broken to be awoken. And I just got to be honest, God had to get a hold of me. And I needed to realize I was making it all about me versus what can I do for you? And that's really the essence of the breakdown of every marriage, is we make it about me. And that doesn't work. Okay. So I was married for 26 years. And lost everything. And then my life started to change and I was awoken, but I still needed a lot of things to be worked on. I remarried to a gal that had been beaten by her stepfather every day. And whenever we have a conflict, she'd run away. And I never saw her again. Within 1 year, it was done. And I looked up and I said, why, God, why? And he started to show me his and hers. And when you say his, hers, it's his and hers, just so you know. And that's what the rings are representing, the ampersand sign. So his and hers greatest need and the single biggest reason why marriages break down. The single biggest reason and how to build it up and the greatest way to love each other. So I've shared with over 12,000 men and women over the last 7 or 8 years in the church, out of the church, Christians, Muslims, ministers, 82-22. Every man and woman has said, that's it, but I didn't know. So when they get this, it really starts to come alive. And I put together a 17-minute video that now succinctly, and I want to get it out to the globe. I met a fellow from Nigeria. He said, Brent, this has got to go global. People in the States, this has got to go global. So that's really what I want to start putting love back into the world when we start putting love back into the marriage.
Yeah, so maybe tell us a bit about you have a new website, and then of course you have this video based on your book. And is that video on your website then?
So I have my hisandhers.ca with Zeds. That's going to get revamped to hisandhersmarriage.com, but it's still hisandhers.ca. So in the interim, we have marriagereignited.com. That's the 17-minute video. You can go there and purchase it. It's $29. I'd give it away for free, but I want to take the proceeds and put that to helping the homeless, the addictions, the single moms, giving them work to do. So I want to have some plans to do that and also open retreats for couples. So the proceeds are going to be used for that. Can't take your family to McDonald's for less than $29. And the people that have watched the video have said, this blows our mind. A Jewish fellow from Sacramento said, Brent, this is incredible. If I would have known this. So lots of good reviews from the 17-minute video. And like I said, I've shared my circles well over 12,000 times. Now it's just in a nice, succinct 17-minute video. So for men that don't want to read a book, the 17-minute video will give you the key nuggets that you need to know.
Okay, so what specific charity are those proceeds going to?
Specific charity has not been named right now. I mean, I work with the Streets Alive group right now, men's recovery.
For sure.
Haven't really finalized what and how that'll look like, but it will go towards homeless, addictions, single parenting, the oppressed, as well as helping couples with retreats and stuff like that, and marriage coaching. So I'm not really sure how that'll all come together, but that's where the proceeds will be going.
Yeah, Streets Alive, definitely a good one. I've spoken to them many times. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Brent, how are couples responding to the Marriage Reignited video so far? You were saying it's just kind of blowing people's minds, right?
Yeah. Well, a couple down in Hamilton said to me, you know, we thought our marriage was pretty good. They got a 7-year-old. He's been married twice. She's on her first marriage. They had some baggage from the past, and they thought they had a pretty good marriage. Catholic background. They watched the video twice in one weekend, and they said, Brent, this blew our mind. It is, and they've watched it many times since. You can watch it as many times, and it's really started to put their marriage together. So, yeah, just a whole variety of different people, individuals, singles, people in the States, across the globe have been watching the video, and they said, I didn't know this. So it's getting good reviews. So that's I got to go social media. I got to go digital.
Right. It makes sense in this day and age. So what is so mind-blowing about what you're saying?
Well, most men and women have no idea. Out of 12,000 people, nobody's guessed the greatest need for man. Not one person ever. And when they realize that, and then when they realize the greatest need for women, and about 20, 25, 30 people have guessed that. And what breaks it down when a man feels his greatest need isn't being met? And it happens in every man. And what happens when a woman responds to what he does and what she does, and it just actually creates more fear, and it goes around and around and around. They didn't see that, but when I describe it to them, they see that's exactly what happens. And then putting it back together, what he needs to do to put it together and what she needs to do, and the greatest way to love each other. I get some real big jaw-dropping eyeballs when they see what they were doing and what they can be doing. So really, it's very profound, and it's really simple.
Okay, interesting. So now, Brent, you write in your book that the greatest need for the husband is significance. So
right.
Is that kind of what you're alluding to there with your video?
100%.
100%.
Right?
Okay, so maybe you can explain what you mean by husbands needing that significance.
Right. Because every man wants to be his wife's hero. And when it starts out, usually in the beginning, the sex and the roses are great. He feels like number one, significance, and she's going to live happily ever after. That's security. Usually the thing that breaks it down the most is the children come along. When a man and woman get together originally, oxytocin is released in that intimacy. But when Mama Bear is pregnant and birthing and nursing, massive oxytocin is being released. So now she's getting her cup filled, because what we don't realize, we come alive when we give, not get. So now she's giving to the children. Now she's giving that way. She doesn't understand why he doesn't get what she's getting. And she's being pulled to the children. She doesn't see that her cup is being filled, her responsibilities are there. And he's going, what am I, chopped liver? So he's still going to her, and he's getting blocked because she's giving to the children. He's not able to give. Most ladies think my husband wants to get sex. Not true. He wants to give love. He happens to love physically and solvingly. Most men want to solve their wife's problems. That's what they think they're supposed to do. She doesn't want her problem solved. She wants him to listen to her feelings, because the problem's not the problem. You may say, well, what do you mean the problem's not the problem? The problem is secondary. She wants to know that he cares about her feelings. And he's going, well, why don't we just fix the problem? Then she won't have those feelings anymore. No, she wants him to care about her feelings. That's her primary concern. If he cares about her heart, then she feels safe. Then she feels secure. Then she can return that love. But when she feels criticized, which is his solving, then she takes it personally, and then she wants nothing to do with him physically.
Now, for a wife, you say in your book that the biggest need tends to be security.
Right. Right. So here's proof. Mama Bear comes by and sees you have a son, Alex, Alex is climbing the tree at 6 years old, and you look up and say, Alex, you better be careful. You might break a leg. You better get down from there. Boom, you just planted the proverbial seed. Falls, breaks his leg. See, I told you. No, just joking. But she's worried about his safety and security. Mama bears are very sensitive. They're always aware. You take a lady and you send her to New York and the slums of New York and the ugly streets and the pitch black midnight. Do you think she's going to want to go for a walk by herself in the pitch black? Probably not. She wants her husband, a friend, a dog. She's probably not going to. Men, they might look around the corner, but they're probably not going to be worried about the security. Papa Bear comes by, sees Johnny climbing a tree. Hey, good job. If you reach here and here, you can go higher. He wants to conquer. Mm-hmm. He wants to accomplish. He wants to be victorious. And he wants to be his wife's hero. He's the pursuer. She wants to be pursued. You tell me, not one woman in this world she wants to be fought for. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's not a guy in the world that doesn't want to be his wife's hero.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so you're doing a good job at identifying the problem. So how can a husband properly listen to his wife's feelings? You'd mentioned that it's just so important for wives to have their husband listen. Why is it so important for a wife? And then how can the husband properly do this?
Right. Well, first and foremost, I think she's got to realize, you don't listen to me. You don't hear what I say. She's got to notice her motive. Oftentimes it's about what you can do for me. She wants him to listen to her. That's a very self-seeking motive. And because we're creatures of habit, as I've done before, I cross your arms. That's the way I cross my arms. But if I have to reverse it, it's not as comfortable. So we're usually, so we don't even realize it's what you can do for me. So first she needs to check her motive. That's very important. There's a biological reason and there's kind of a habitual reason. At about 8 weeks old, boys get a rush of testosterone. So up to 8 weeks, both boys and girls are roughly the same. They're communicating goo goo gaga with their moms. They're getting their diapers changed. They're smiling. Their conversation is hitting. When the testosterone hits, it reduces his tendency for verbal communication. It increases his tendency for action and competition and aggression. If he's going to be a protector, he has to have that. So he grows up not comfortable, most men not comfortable with sharing this conversation that females have grown up with their whole life, sharing conversation. So they're very proficient and they didn't have the testosterone rush. So that's part of the biological reason. So it's a habit and it's biological. Plus they want to solve the problem. That's how they're wired. So as soon as she starts venting the problem, he's already starting to solve it. He wants to solve the problem. He wants to love her. He wants to help her. He doesn't want her to have those feelings because he feels bad that she has those feelings. So he'll blurt right in and start solving. The other thing that causes him to not listen is men think in boxes. So he might be somewhere else. Women, they can go back and forth. They can switch gears. They can follow the popcorn in the air. No, he's one at a time. So he may not have the time, and she can pop back and forth. So she doesn't understand why he doesn't think the way she does. Mm-hmm. So he actually needs time to pull out of this box and into this box. So she needs to give him that time. Right. So she needs to give him that time to do that. Men think that they're supposed to solve the problem. They don't know that they're supposed to be listening to feelings. If you say, a lot of women say, I feel that we should do this. And men go, I think that we should do this. Much more feelings orientated, much more facts orientated. Men are visual. She's more verbal. They're very opposite. The name for female, or when God said, I'll give you a helper suitable, is azer kenegdo. One of the meanings for kenegdo is opposite. How they approach sex and physical intimacy is exactly the opposite. I have a booklet that I just wrote. It's a mini book. It's 49 pages. It's the 7 opposites of man and woman and how they attract, complement, and complete. And the biggest misunderstanding about sex and unity, this is probably the biggest breakdown of all marriages across the globe and how they're exactly opposite. It's in chapter 6. It's a free booklet. If all couples knew this, it would probably transform our world. And it's not in any other book. It's not in the church. It's not in the counselor's office. I just say it was divine appointment.
Wow. Okay. It looks like we are running out of time, but really quickly, how can viewers get a hold of your booklet or your book or your video?
So the video, if you go to marriagereignited.com, and you can order the video and or the book there as well. You can go to my website, hisandhers.ca, and order the book. There's two ways, Amazon, or you can get it directly from me. Or you can go to Amazon directly and just type in His and Hers Greatest Need. Order that way. For coaching, you can go to my intro. I know it's a lot of websites, but intro.hisandhers.ca. My email is brent@hisandhers.ca.
Okay.
And my phone number is 403-816-5049. You can text me, 816-5049. So, and if you want, I will send you the free booklet on the 7 opposites, and that will give you some major nuggets to really help you. But I would encourage you to get the video and the book.
Thanks so much for being with us today, Brent.
Can I give 2 words of encouragement to men and women?
Mm-hmm.
So men, you stay. You never give up loving your wife. You figure out whatever you have to do to love her heart. And wives, please believe in your husband. Yes, respect, and yes, those other things, but believe in him because he wants to be your hero and he wants to go to the moon for you and with you. So thank you.
So sweet. Brent Taylor is a Lethbridge marriage coach and the author of His, Hers, Greatest Need, His, Hers with a Z or a Z. I know that might be a little confusing when we're trying to Google it, so just remember that. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.